There's Stephanie.
How about that?
All right. Welcome, board members, and it looks like tonight we have 10, perhaps more, but it looks like 10 members of our public. I see many names that are familiar to me, and so welcoming everybody. We're still waiting for Bob Hennessy. He might show up in these attending. Oh, and there's Amy back again. Amy's let us know that her internet is not cooperating. So, it's just kind of a no surprise. And hey, Paul Rowley, haven't seen you in a while. I know Liz has been covering the board meetings. So welcome, longtime fan. And we see other folks, other teachers. There's Thomas. I'm going to make sure he gets in. Okay, and then hopefully Bob is just letting me know that there's tech issues. That's just the nature of the game. Let me let him know that that's fine, and let me know if I can help. Okay. Okay, so again, welcome everybody. We, tonight's is a work session for the board. It's interesting because in a in-person setting, most work sessions we don't have any participants or audience members, and so I think having or being distanced there are some advantages to being distance learning and having these meetings on Zoom, because the members of our community can certainly more easily attend. And so, welcome everybody. And thank you very much to our admin team, our principals, assistant principals, our directors for joining the board directors tonight for this work session. Most of us were on a parent meeting last night, and some of us were in a staff meeting yesterday. So this is a really, great opportunity again to, I think for me at least, every time I'm sharing details or sharing planning or sharing our thinking, that kind of metacognition is helpful, because I'm thinking through it, and then you hear yourself talking through things. It's just another way for me that helps me process the information. So I'm going to be about 5 to 10 minutes board, and so just giving some background, some summary, and then we'll move into some principal reports with mostly a focus on on elementary. And so Rebecca has had the spotlight now for a couple of days, and probably the weekend and time before that as well. So she'll get she'll probably have 5 to 15 minutes of time, probably more like 10 to 15 minutes of time, where she'll be giving you some information. There are some documents that we put into the board docs that I hope board directors had a chance to review, including letters to families, slideshows, kind of what to expect, in terms of when families for any in-person learning. There's some information regarding the survey results, just to name a few. Also, at any point in time, if the board directors have questions or we want to engage, this is a pretty loosely organized structure to allow for a lot of conversation, to allow for questions and answers. We're scheduled from 6:30 to 7:30, although I've informed everybody, hopefully in front of me, that could go a little bit longer as needed. So that's what we can expect this evening, is just to become more informed, give feedback, and have a better understanding of the impacts from the new Department of Health guidelines, and also in terms of where we are today with our current situation regarding the pandemic, in-person learning and distance learning. So here's my summary. So I had intended this before, but we've done a remarkable, I think we've done a remarkable job in response to the pandemic and the types of educational programs that we provided students. And this is really, this hasn't been easy. And I point that out because at times, maybe our public or maybe the board or even myself, we don't know until we get in these board site visits or until you're visiting classrooms or until you're having conversations with the people who have the boots on the ground. You just don't know really what it takes to pivot this system from in-person to distance learning. And so I'd like, I'm going to start off, I have a motto that begin and end your day with gratitude. So I'm going to begin and end this meeting with gratitude. I'm just going to give a shout out to our boots on the ground folks, our teachers, our staff members, our food service, custodians, bus driver, you name, they are all, I just can't tell you, it's an understatement to tell you that they are working hard and providing just amazing services for our folks, for our kids, and our admin at every level. So I'm going to share that. So December 16th, Governor Inslee had a press conference, shared new guidelines. I think the board is informed, is pretty well informed of what those guidelines indicated and said, hey, we are moving the thresholds higher because the new data and the new science indicate that, in terms of transmission in schools, we haven't seen the kinds of increases in the transmission activity that we would normally see. And in a nutshell, what it points to and what Governor Inslee shared in his news conference was the amount of COVID activity that you see in the community when students are completely distance learning isn't that different than if you have students in in-person learning with all the mitigation strategies in place. And now that means social distancing, masks, sanitation, ventilation, cohorts, et cetera. And so what that signaled to the Department of Health and then what Governor Inslee signaled to us is that they're going to raise the thresholds in terms of COVID activity in your community, and with the aim of getting students back to in-person learning. And so then districts are left with okay, so now what do we do? How do we understand that new guidance? How do we understand the science? How do we work through all the myriad of details of what this, how this might impact our system? And that's what we've been doing for the last now 3 weeks, working with labor leaders, working through admin team. And our admin team started to meet the first week after the break. And then we began meetings with our labor leaders. And then shortly thereafter, building leaders began meetings with their PLC teams, their PLC leads. And so it's complicated. It's not easy. There's no direct point from A to B. And not interestingly enough, but we are Vashon Island, but there's a lot of things happening around us as well. And I know, other districts talk about their openings, and then other districts, are struggling, and there's been a lot, just recently, I don't know if our board's heard, but there's this ripple out there about what's happening in Bellevue. And so there's a lot of concern, a lot of, just questions out there that are so difficult to answer, which then really puts organizations like ours in a little bit of a pressure cooker. And I'm going to just let you know that thankfully, and this is our tradition, this is our history, is that we have a tradition of trying to include as much input as possible from our stakeholders, paying attention to the Department of Health guidelines, the L&I guidelines, the OSPI guidelines, what the board approved, I think back in August, in terms of, we will be following, these guidelines and holding me and our system accountable to that. But there's still this pressure cooker. And then now you layer the vaccine on top of that, and so the immediacy or the non-immediacy of the vaccine and the information surrounding that. It just adds to a lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions. And so what I've been thankful for is just the fact that we've been able to come together and ask questions, share our experiences. We know that VEA and VSP have been working closely with their members to take the pulse of how they're feeling, and they've been sharing that with us. And all this information is to our benefit because our island, we have a unique community, a unique identity, and that will continue throughout this pandemic, and we have to be considerate of that. So tonight I'm hoping that our administrators can share with you kind of their plans. Please feel free to ask any questions. I know sometimes I don't know, like we have conversations as board members, kind of me, I'm having my one-on-ones with board members throughout the week, but this is our time to come together to understand the impacts as best we can. February 1st, we have a date set out there where I've invited the public health partners from Seattle, from Public Health Seattle King County. Did I get that right, Bob? Public Health Seattle King, yes, nice. I keep calling it something else, but I wanted to make sure I got it right for Bob tonight. And then our partners on the island with MRC and Vashon Be Prepared, Rick Wallace. So we have, and then our own nursing services staff, our labor leaders, our building leaders. We're going to come together on February 1st at 3:45 and have some questions ready that we're going to ask our healthcare partners to try to get some sense of what should we be doing in this situation with the pandemic, depending on COVID activity, depending on new science, new data, new information, because it does change week to week. And I think that's what Toby, you were talking about last night in our parent meeting was, kind of how do we remain agile enough to be responsive to these constantly changing conditions? And so far we've been doing, pretty well, but now we're kind of not at a crossroads per se, but at a point where we may need to pivot. And so from February 1st, I'm hoping to learn whether we're going to continue planning for in-person or whether the conditions are such that we should be pushing the pause button and holding off. So that's where it stands right now. And I'm gonna kind of just let us lead into Rebecca right now to share some information. Unless there's some questions right now from the board that you'd like to ask me, and then I can answer those and then kind of move into our principal reports.
I have a quick point of clarification about the February 1st meeting. The way I understand it, and perhaps a way to frame it that is useful, is that right now you're working on a reopening plan, the nuts and bolts of how do you actually do it. February 1st is the opportunity to bring a broader group of stakeholders to provide data-driven decision-making around, are the COVID conditions at a level that we can then execute on the plan, or do we need to pause? So it's a go, no go decision on proceeding. That's not a go, no go decision on the plan.
Right. That's a good.
And that means focused around the health conditions in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an accurate way of how you've separated those two things? That's
a great summary of that.
Okay.
I think the goal of every educator that I've spoken with is to be with our kids as soon as it's safest to do so. I haven't, there really hasn't been a teacher or a staff member that I've talked to who doesn't miss their kids. I miss the kids. I've been down to ECAP a couple of times in the last month. I've been down to Vashon Kids, and it's if you don't know, my first position in a building was a 4th grade teacher, and actually a kindergarten substitute for many weeks. And so being in the elementary building is just one of the highlights for me in this position, because I have access to the young kids. So that's always kind of been our goal out there, but it's always, been, we have to have this lens in front of us about, well, when is it safest to do so? And so I think the planning that you're talking about is exceptionally useful for us, because we may be in a delay, and that planning will still, it's still helpful for all of our teams. So I think that's what you're pointing out. It's like the planning really isn't. Yeah, thanks. Other questions from the board before we kind of yield the floor to Rebecca? Hey, question though, Bob, are those suspenders? All right. Nice. Okay, Rebecca, sorry, sidetracked.
I wish I had suspenders now, yeah. Great, so I'll just give you a little bit of a summary of where we are. I might invite John to speak a little bit too about our current process with placement and kind of what we're doing next after getting the commitment surveys back. But we developed our hybrid plan in the fall, and then we kind of refined it when we thought maybe we were coming back in October, and did another survey and came up with the half day morning and afternoon plan, which was greatly preferred by our teaching staff, just for the consistency of teaching every day for 4 days a week for our students. And even though we know every plan has its challenges, and so we are confronting all of those challenges right now. And so in terms of, Toby, you're asking about the date, is like, it means we really need to be ready by the 1st. Like we're getting things ready. So our teachers will feel more at ease knowing that our plans are settled, and what are the classrooms going to look like, and all that stuff is actually, it's that nitty gritty stuff that makes you feel more secure about return. It's just figuring out safety protocols and more. And so we're working hard on that. We recently sent a commitment form out to parents, as I know you saw that. We have committed to providing a distance learning track that's very similar to what we have now, as well as an in-person option that would be a half day in-person option. And so what that means at the elementary level, we have more flexibility to do that than maybe a high school does, because you have like 4 teachers teaching 4th grade. And so there's an ability to move around educators based on what parents want, but that does create a lot of heartache for our teachers. So the thought of having to lose your kids if you are the distance teacher, or if you're in person and your student chose distance learning, then they might go to a different classroom. And so that's a hard transition for our teachers and our teaching staff. So that's something where emotions are high right now around that. But we're also really excited about the opportunity to have students back. They'll be back in small groups, because the reason for hybrid is so that we can have half the students at a time, so that classes are small. We can use social distancing and masks, and just getting all the protocols that you've seen from Department of Health, like all those protocols set. And we're going to begin with kindergarten first, to kind of do a run through with not very many students, and then bring back 1st through 3rd. And so we are getting ready, and I was going to leave. Next thing, I'll invite John in to speak a little bit about kind of what's our plan now after getting the commitment forms back, maybe the percentages that we received.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. To start off with the percentages, I think about 62%, the last I checked, but it may have wobbled. It was kind of like tracking the election at times. 62% of parents did want in person to be, students to be in person with us at school, and accept the hybrid kind of model, which is great. It shows us that families really do need us or want us. It means that it gave us a bit of confidence to move forward, that hey, this is the right direction. We've got to solve some things, obviously, to have safe conditions and get everyone on board. But I feel like the community has reached out strongly to us, giving us that yes, 62% say yes, we want to go forward. And with that data, we're really just trying to figure out how to deploy our teaching staff from that. And it works out pretty nicely, with the exception of 1 or 2 grades, in that we can have one teacher kind of remaining, one teacher stepping away from the grade level and becoming the remote teacher, whereas the rest will be in person. We've got a couple of funky situations now. The data is truly coming in. That's kind of triggering maybe some different thinking, whether that be split grade level classes. We've got all these weird and wonderful decisions to think through with our staff, and there's a lot of teacher input going into that, so I won't necessarily set out that any more than that. But the grades affected, and the teachers are kind of thinking on it at the moment. We're trying to come up with the best solution to facilitate the right size classes, both in person and distance. Our in-person numbers look really healthy at the moment. Classes look really small. Each shift would sort of have, in virtually every case at this point, when I checked the numbers earlier, a group size of 10 or less students, some as little as 6 in some grade levels. So that's kind of nice. So like 6 in the AM, 6 in the PM. Well, that's really the floor. We're really generally looking at 8 and 9, 10 in those numbers. AM 8, 9 in the morning, 9 in the PM. So with that data, we're really going to build our systems. We've done so much work over the past few months of plan A, B, C, D. We've probably got every possible scenario planned out. So it's just kind of matching our previous thinking with this data has finally arrived. Now we can make some step forward doing schedules, whether it be, starting with the teacher and the rosters and letting families know who they got. And then really from there, just building all those layers of systems on to maximize the student experience and just maximize the things they're really yearning for, which is spending time with each other, but also in a learning environment too. So it's marrying those two, not competing, very complementary forces together, just to make sure that when the kids return, it's just a wonderful place, and we can share the happiness and remind them what school's all about again, and get them in the happy place speaking with friends again. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on, Rebecca. I kind of on a tangent there because I'm so excited about the thought of students potentially being able to kind of hang out with one another again. So excited.
We're very excited, and parents. When I went on a few hikes this weekend on the island, parents kept stopping me and saying how thankful they were and how much they were looking forward to their kids coming back. And so that we're pretty excited about it. Although there's definitely a lot to get done before then. I want to say some classes I think will be 12 morning and afternoon. The state has said 15 is our max, and we're not going to get near there. But or not that close to that, but we're just still, those kind of things are being figured out, who's going to be morning or afternoon. And so, but with the morning or afternoon decision, we really are taking parent input in terms of preference and kind of requirement. So parents have indicated if due to childcare they need a morning or an afternoon, and so the numbers came in and that we can accommodate those people that said they really require one or the other. And we're working with Camp South and with Vashon Kids to make sure that their programs are complementary so that parents can have access to childcare as well. And so we're kind of, we've had enough time to plan all aspects of this, and then stuff still comes up that, new challenges, that it's a lot of opportunity for problem solving.
Rebecca, can you and Brandon speak about what transportation is going to look like? And I know there was a question yesterday about transportation between South and the school.
Yeah, we will be. They don't have firm numbers. Camp South does not, of how many parents they'll have, how many students they'll have enrolled in the morning and afternoon. But we did talk about that drop off. We can't go down the driveway, but we can drop off on the road to Camp South. And so we're working with Camp South. Which Brandon and I, we met today to talk about what does this mean for preschool and students that receive special education services and special busing, and so really looking at the routes. And Brandon's just eagerly awaiting more information from us about like exactly which students are coming in the morning and are coming in the afternoon, so that they know more concrete numbers. We have about 40% of our students have said they would like bus transportation, and 60% parents will be driving them. And so that's something we're looking at, but it will, we're not quite sure how that's going to shake out in terms of, how many kids on Maury go in the morning and that kind of stuff. Now, Brandon, do you have any more you want to add to that?
I would just say that we have a plan and we're ready to go. We're going to, all the drivers have all been recalled, and we're going to train them next week and get them to the standard, and we're ready.
And we've been working with technology too for our attestation so that we can have students grouped by bus route also. So when a bus pulls in, we can quickly see that everyone on the bus has completed the attestation. If they haven't, then they can move to the covered area and await a checking in system. And if they have been checked in, they can just go right to class. So we've got those systems in place with the technology side of it. For parents dropping off in the front, we have scanners, and so they'll have a card that we can just scan through their windshield, and if they scan that they've done their attestation, they can just get right out of the car and go into school. So kind of getting all these systems in place. We're excited. John and I and Kelly from our office and a teacher, we're going up to Sultan School District. They've been running a morning afternoon hybrid program for a while now, and so we're going to go and visit them, and they said, you got to come and see our drop off and pick up procedures. It was like, definitely. And recess. And so we're excited to go and see that and then keep that communication going.
Bob?
I was just, I know we all get excited about procedures. So I'd be curious to, I'm glad you're able to go up there. It's a long investment of time. So I think that's cool. The in-person learning you're doing up there.
Yeah, Anthony Smith, the superintendent from Riverview, I reached out to him and he shared with me that that their team of teachers had visited. It's a little shorter drive for them. It's probably not that short still, but but they, as soon as I reached out to their assistant principal, we got some immediate response back. And so that meant John and Rebecca could coordinate with them around seeing how it works. There's just nothing like seeing it in person. Rebecca's also trying to, and John probably as well, trying to find some opportunities in Tacoma as they begin their kind of returning to school processes. So it's exciting, and more staff can see that and have that understanding. I'm hoping that that we can extend any learning that we're doing with this in person to do some in-person Zooms so that teachers can talk with teachers in a larger, broader format. And I know that that's through Zoom, that's very possible. So we are exploring those options as well. Reagan, you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about the transportation again. I presume that the kids will be single seated, every other seat on the bus to space them out type of thing. And if that's so, do we have any capacity concerns on the route for any individual bus being overfilled based on that seating arrangement?
Right now, we don't have any concerns. The guidance is still that we can fill the bus up. We're going to try and separate as much as we can, though.
Because so we have 35% of our students are not going to come to school at all in this setting, and then 60% are getting driven by their parents. So the numbers, it allows for spacing naturally. And then I know Brandon.
Is there going to be an effort? Is there going to be an effort to space them, or are they just going to be allowed to sit wherever they want to sit on the bus?
Nope, absolutely, there's going to be effort to space them.
Okay.
So the plan, they'll enter and they'll fill from the back toward the front. So they're not walking past each other either. And so it'll be very intentional seating on the buses.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question, and I'm sorry if you covered this. I can see parents changing their minds. People saying, "Wow, I've been keeping my kid at home, and this sending my kid to school looks like a really attractive option to me." Do we have the capacity, I assume, to allow for some, a dynamic customer environment to make adaptations as we go? You don't anticipate capacity issues on buses, et cetera?
Not at this time, we don't. We feel very comfortable that we're going to be able to handle it all, especially after the conversations with Rebecca and John this morning.
Now, that being said, there might not be a capacity issue on buses, but we did ask parents, we said, like, this is a commitment for the school year, and then we will make exceptions when we can. And with our current numbers, we will be able to bring more people in person because our class sizes are pretty small. But at some point, we would hit a tipping point where the in-person class is full, and we still have kids in distance learning. And so without another kind of major shuffle and splits and something that wouldn't be good for kids, we won't necessarily always be able to accommodate a shuffling of students, but we certainly will as much as we can. And if it's childcare related or job related, I mean, we will try. And in the current setup, it looks like we will be able to invite kids back in person if they choose to, because our numbers are still pretty small. But
especially in the afternoon, right?
Yeah, no, although a lot of people that requested morning will be in the afternoon. So
Yeah.
those that require morning will be morning, but a lot of the requests are going to have to go to the afternoon. So we'll try to even the morning and afternoon classes just for teachers. And the other thing that teachers have talked a ton, and parents have too, about relationships that they've built with their classroom and community. So I wouldn't want to see kids going, they build a whole new relationship with another teacher and then they go move again to a new class. It's just, that's not good for kids either. So we're hoping it's fairly stable.
Well, that's being communicated, Rebecca, that's being communicated on the front end that, this is a commitment and we'll have maybe some flexibility to change, but that's communicated on the front end.
Well, we just said it's a commitment. And when people have reached out and asked me, like, what if I need to flex? I was like, yes, we can have limited flexibility. I just can't guarantee it because there's all these other factors involved.
Mhm. Yes, Beth or Toby or Reagan, any other questions for
I
Rebecca?
was just trying to think, Rebecca, of what were some of the questions that were brought up last night, because there were some good ones. One of them was just, Bob, to your point about flexibility. I'm just trying to think. And then Rebecca, attestation means, just for clarity, and what I'm assuming in my head, I have a assumption of what that looks like, but what in reality is that?
So our tech department made it's a homegrown app that we have. It's on a phone, or you can do it on a computer. We have paper versions, but we're really trying to get people to use the app. And so you answer a series of questions like, has your child have a fever of more than 100.4? Have you taken fever reducing medication? Have you been near someone that has been identified as having COVID? Or so it's just a whole series of questions that you're certifying your child is coming to school healthy, because we can't have kids coming to school sick. So the parents are taking the temperature.
And they'll do that every day. And if somebody shows up without an attestation, they go to the check-in line and they get their temperature taken. Is that right?
And then at the elementary level, we also call parents, because we don't know if these other questions we can't answer just by talking to the child. So we will take their temperature, but then we'll also call a family member.
This our visits to Sultan and learning from other districts, it will be pretty critical in this part to term. Those districts that have had students in person, they've worked through a lot of these scenarios already, and so we're hoping to learn a lot from them so that we don't kind of repeat mistakes, and that we can get organized and get off the ground moving a little bit quicker than they have. So, but it's been. I haven't heard of a district yet that says that attestations were easy, but most districts also say that the system adjusts and kids get trained, parents get trained, and the amount of time you spend starts to kind of decrease as you and fairly soon in terms of when starting. So that's all anecdotal. We haven't seen it. No one's been surveying and taking data on that, but that has been what I've been listening to in our superintendent meetings.
And all staff who enters the building also do an attestation each day.
Right.
And then Rebecca, what about snacks? I'm assuming there will be no lunches?
That's true. Yeah, we will not be serving food. That's another advantage of the half day, actually, is that we don't need to worry about kids unmasking and eating and figuring out how to do that safely under COVID. We could figure it out. Like any scenario, we can make it work. Lots of schools have, but one of the benefits is to not have to do lunches at school. And so if we find our young students really need a snack or something, then they'll do that outside. Like when they go out to recess time, they'll make a time for a quick snack. If we find students or older students, like we find students are really needing a snack in the middle of their time, we would do that outside. So we've been coordinating with Lisa Syra, who is on the call, about adding maybe a pickup location in the morning for when people are dropping off, that they could get near the school, grab a bag of breakfast and lunch, And if there are some students that really don't have access and come to school hungry, we may have some bags that we send kids home with. But in general, like while the middle school and high school are still functioning on a remote basis, we're going to maintain our systems as they are. So so if they're in an afternoon class, they can go in the morning and get their breakfast and lunch just like they have been. We'll have the same routes for them to access the food. Do you want to add any more to that, Lisa? Or you will later.
Oh, you can add now too. So yeah,
Oh.
that's fine.
I also, I'm sort of in my head, I'm going through the day. So you arrive, you prove that you're not sick, then you go to your class, and then specialists.
Oh, so good question. So when they're in person, they're basically going to have, there's going to be definitely community building, and we realize it's kind of like starting a new school year. Like it's a different experience again. So there's going to be a lot of community building and fun and just like enjoying being back at school. And so they will focus though on literacy. They'll have a recess time that'll be social emotional learning, and teachers will be there too. And then a math. So really focusing on literacy and math while they're in person. And then in their remote afternoons, we will have specialists, or their remote morning. So the specialists will be teaching their specialty area for the distance learners and for students when they're not in school. We're also meeting with the teachers. We're still trying to figure out whether the teachers that are distance learning, who are teaching like science and social studies, if they can, in their schedule, teach a science social studies class to the students that are at home during their other half day. And we will be providing our like math support and reading support and some of our special education programs where you mix kids from all across the school to get support at their level. Those will be remote in the morning or afternoon while they're not at school. And so part of the challenge, some parents have asked me like, why can't you just start tomorrow? Like, what's the delay? And like there's a lot of planning that goes into making new schedules. So first we have to figure out who's coming in the morning and who's coming in the afternoon. And then, well, we need to figure that out with the needs of our students also. But then we need to rework all of our support schedules so that the students that come in the morning can get their reading and math support in the afternoon, and vice versa. And the groups work out, and special education services will work for students. And so it's like a huge overhaul of our support services while the school year is going. So it's definitely a heavy lift.
Yeah, it is a heavy lift.
Thank you, Rebecca. That helps. Other questions from the board? Or Reagan, I saw you unmute.
Yeah, I just had one more question. Understanding, I just have a question about additional efforts to ventilate the building. I understand the internal separation and trying to stay apart from each other, but we are inside and it is winter. So is there going to be any additional efforts to keep doors or windows open, or how are we trying to just keep the air moving a little more?
We wouldn't normally keep as much fresh air flowing in because it makes our heating really like inefficient, but we are going to keep it open. So we've set our intake in each classroom to full, and so they'll get a lot of fresh air, and we will prop open windows. So it might be a little chilly in the classroom, but our heat system we'll spend more on heating this year, but. So that is our plan. So we're fortunate with our systems that we can make those adjustments to bring in fresh air through the system within each classroom, in addition to having the windows open.
Thanks.
Greg, why don't you, we can always come back to Rebecca if you think of more questions or want to share more, but let's move to Greg and then.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I would just say that in kind of forecasting and reviewing our planning at McMurray, I think what I think is important is that we're in concert with the high school and really running parallel with our process. So, I'll kind of hit some of the highlights, and I'm sure Danny will be able to add on to that. I had a chance to meet with Danny and Gus and kind of compare notes this morning. And I think that's an important piece to note, that both the high school and McMurray really need to be in sync with how we forecast our planning. And I think that's we're going to accomplish that for sure. As you know, based on the Department of Health guidance, in looking at the secondary schools and not wanting to disrupt the third quarter, we really looked at really that mid-April timeline as being kind of the first opportunity where we could open. And so we're really planning backwards from that in a lot of ways. And in this first phase, we're reviewing some of the brainstorming and questions and ideas that were surfaced in the fall by our team. And a lot of that's changed. Some of it's the same, some of it's similar. The questions are perhaps different as things have morphed over time. But we're now just in the process of re-looking at where we were in the fall, surfacing new questions, new ideas about how we would come back there in the fourth quarter if that opportunity presents itself. And it's interesting, the questions that were surfaced, they range from being structural questions, similar to what Rebecca and John are facing, is how are we going to deal with passing time and lunchtime and grouping students and cohorts and so forth, to questions around instruction and how do we deal with remote learners, those who choose to be remote and those who choose to come in for in-person. Questions around how do we balance the need that what we're going to see as an increased need in social emotional learning for our students, and then while still maintaining a focus on academics, and how do we do that, and then when we come back, maintaining a really positive school culture. And so some of those are priorities for us in terms of the planning. We'll say, in our ideas, folks were really thinking about how do we take some of the best parts of distance learning. There are some positives that we take away from this, and then incorporate that into what we're thinking. What is the new normal going to look like for our schools moving forward? And I like the thinking on that, because we certainly don't have to throw away some of the things that were positive, like flexibility and a little bit more focus on project-based learning and standards-based based projects. And so, obviously the advantage is around meeting kids in person and having that teaching and learning moment. But there are some things that we do want to incorporate from what we've learned the last almost year. And then I guess the last thing is really surfacing how do we incorporate our students' voice in what we want that new normal to look like, and that's super important to our team. So our next steps really, Danny and Gus and I are looking at, what we're going to start modeling out what possible schedules might look like. We think that may spark additional thinking around what are some pros and cons to what our models look like. We're reaching out to other districts. There are probably not a lot of districts that have started middle and high school in the state. There probably are a few, but there certainly are others in the nation. And Gus has some contacts down in California, and I have some family in Colorado. We're reaching out to some other folks about how they've done that. Gus is really strong at modeling out what possible schedules are doing, and so that's been fantastic. He did that when we were thinking about our distance learning schedules. So he's gonna be working on what some of those models look like while we consult some other districts. We're also going to work on what was really important for Rebecca is going to be equally important for the high school, which is determining who are the students that are going to want to remain remote and who are those students who are going to be able to come in person. And that percentage is going to really dictate more detailed planning for both of our schools, I think, in a lot of ways. So we're working on formulating a survey. We realized that in that survey, we're going to need to give some level of specificity about what the in-person options are going to look like. And so that's the important part of looking at some possible models so that we can give folks some level of information about what that might look like, and also what a remote option is going to look like. So both of those things are kind of our next steps, and we hope to have that survey ready to go out sometime before February or midwinter break, so that we can then take that next step of more detailed planning there in late February and March. So that's a little bit about where we're at in our process, and take any questions you might have at this time.
Yeah, Danny, go ahead, Reagan.
Hey, we're all quiet. I think it sounds really good, Greg. It sounds like it's so far away right now. I just want to see if we can get the elementary school up and flying, but I know you guys are planning and learning along the way as well. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And I suppose we don't have any questions right now because seems like it's a little ways away. We'll have more questions as we get closer, I'm sure.
I'm grateful that Rebecca and John are paving the way on this, and we're certainly supporting them. But I'm also interested in doing some visits, and hopefully we can cultivate some relationships from some area schools and be able to visit as well.
Yeah, Greg, that's what I was asked. It's interesting that I mean, I know the focus has been on getting our youngest learners back, and so, you know, that's been sort of since day one. But it's interesting that there aren't very many. You don't have any other models to look at around at all. Other states nearby, crazy states who open up too early and they shouldn't have, that we can learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, I mean by and large, I think Danny surfaced this morning. By and large, what we've seen are a typical kind of A/B hybrid model where schools will bring back half their students, let's say, on a Monday and a Wednesday, and half their students on a Tuesday and Thursday, and then kind of an asynchronous or distance learning day on Friday. That's kind of the most typical schedule that we're seeing. But we also want to surface some other options that we might want to put on the table that will be a little bit more innovative. Danielle, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, there are several high schools right now in the state, and even not that far from us, who are currently running hybrid, and some who have been running hybrid since the fall. And but they all are running 6-period day, like semester-long schedules, doing that AB cohort, and so that's an option. Like that's definitely going to be one option we look at, is splitting our population in half and having them come every other day. So with the 5th day async, like Greg was saying, but we do have the opportunity to explore some other options at the same time, and we'll do that. There isn't, I mean, there's no models out there, right? There's no guidance from the state. There's no example template, whatever's from anyone. I mean, there aren't think tanks at universities who have come up with models on what a best practice looks like. I mean, so everyone is just trying stuff out. What I think that gives us the opportunity to do is to, and I think this is something Vashon is really good at, is figure out what's going to work for us, and to think really carefully, talk to lots of people, and then do something that might look different from what other people are doing, but make sure that it reflects what we need. Don't we do that all the time on Vashon?
Quite a bit. And kind of on the, you know, the system still has to align with the elementary building and any constraints we have around transportation. We do anticipate, and we've seen it bear out in the initial survey from Rebecca, but this may change as we get closer to any real in-person learning for secondary, that most parents, and we do encourage this to arrange private transportation. And so the ridership we do anticipate to be low, which could provide more flexibility around models. But this is a Jenga tower of you know, choices. So.
I think the other thing that is important to note around secondary planning is that there are many things that are working for most of our students. So, but there's a very significant minority of our students for whom distance learning is not working at all. And we're about 2 weeks away from having complete data from first semester to look at. That we can compare against previous years' data around failure rates and Ds and attendance and dropout rates. And we were looking okay after Q1, but I will just tell you anecdotally, Q2, we've seen a real steep drop off at the high school around student engagement and affect, frankly, motivation. And so I'm bracing myself for some data that does not look good around how our students are faring currently. And I think we hear that from teachers too. They're just really sick of this. You know, this is a really difficult way to do school. And so any ways in which we can thoughtfully and think through a viable different experience that we can put in front of our secondary students that gives them a horizon, like this isn't going to last forever. If I can just hang on for this much longer and then I'm going to be able to do X, I think hopefully will help. We also are, I'm going to be talking to my teams about how can we safely take advantage of our current small group in-person offerings at the high school, and how can we kind of maximize our capacity right now so that we're really capturing and scooping up as many kids as possible who are falling through the cracks. So we put a lot of invitations out to students to start Q3, which starts next Tuesday, to come into the building for in-person learning, and we're getting people are starting to say yes to that. So I'm hopeful that will help. But the other thing I wanted to share about the secondary planning is that because it's working for so many of our students, we also need to make sure we don't ask our teachers and our students to sort of reinvent themselves one more time for the last 3 months of the school year. You know, somehow whatever plan we come up with has to be something that we can take advantage of everything we've learned for the last year and implement that to the advantage of our students.
Yeah, I anecdotally, Danny, I'm hearing some really tough stories about students really, really struggling. It's, oh God, it's just, we got to get through this, and it's just hard. I'm wondering about, I sort of feel like the elephant in the room is the teachers and the teachers' extreme hesitation to come back. You know, anything on Facebook, the stuff I've seen on Facebook, which I don't really like to get my news from Facebook, but just what are you all thinking about addressing teachers' fears and concerns, and parents who are concerned about their teachers as well?
Mm-hmm. Right now, we're really taking that kind of one step at a time. We're still fairly early. I can tell you in the last 7 days, I've probably received 4 or 5 different signals and pieces of information around vaccines, whether they're going to be available or whether they're not going to be available. You know, Governor Inslee has changed the guidance already a couple times, and so. I think holding off on and really taking time to look at February 1st and coming together and with the best information possible. We haven't made a decision, because I really want to hear from these public health officials, and not just.
We're all waiting with bated breath.
Oh, the Zoom cliffhanger.
And so.
Okay, you froze there. You're back now. All those words of wisdoms you just said.
You stopped at, you're looking forward to the February 1st meeting where you can bring people together.
Oh, the
so
health experts.
Right, that will just give us an opportunity to, we're going to have prepared them in advance, so we can maximize that time with them, and hopefully draw some conclusions around that critical question that, is it how safe is it, or is it safe for, and health officials are notoriously reluctant to tell you if it's safe or not. They want to tell you about guidelines, they want to give you metrics, they want to share data with you, but they don't want to tell you that something is safe. It's hard for me to share, to kind of share with parents on a regular basis that your child is going to be 100% safe, in our building every day. It's an agreement that we're just not able to fulfill. And so, but we do, take safety, quite seriously. I take our teachers' concerns very seriously. I've been advocating for vaccines, since the promise of them came out. I know our governor, I know our superintendent of public schools has, legislators have, area superintendents we've signed on to, to letters and lobbying for vaccines for our teachers. I also know that Biden just today signed an executive order, and one of the parts of that executive order was prioritizing vaccines for teachers and educators. And so what is the landscape for vaccination going to look like in 2 weeks from now? I don't know. What will it look like 4 weeks from now? I don't know. So it's very difficult also in our position to make decisions on something that is completely not in my control. I've come to the quick realization that while I may lend a voice to the area superintendents or to our state superintendents, I haven't seen a lot of movement, from that part of the equation. So it just feels like I don't have a lot of say in terms of the Department of Health and how they're going to distribute vaccines, or whether vaccines are going to be available or not. So it's a big unknown, and that makes it really difficult. But my feel is we're gonna work through this. I made it clear to VEA and VSP in last meetings that I don't think we can do this if we're not doing it together. I just don't, but we have some time to gather more data, to have a better understanding, and we've proven already that we've had zero transmission because of school programs or school activities, with a fairly good number of students who have been coming regularly into the buildings. We've seen Vashon Kids with 35 students on 4 days a week since March, with zero incidents of transmission through any of their programs. Camp South has had zero. So we're seeing that there's, when we implement the mitigation strategies, that we don't see that spread or that transmission. And the question is, we know that we don't want one case, but is that too high of an expectation? For some it is, and for some it isn't. And so these are just not easy answers to really difficult questions.
Right. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, and I know I'm asking that just to get it out, because I know it's like an unanswerable question. Sure. Okay, it is now 7:30. I want everyone to stand up. Come on.
I can do that.
Up.
I can do that. And then
stretch however you need to stretch.
Yeah, and then let's go ahead and then move to Catherine, who will share a few minutes about student services programs, and then we'll move to Lisa, and then I can't remember which order, but Lisa and then Kevin will follow that as well.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm just going to stay standing because that feels really good. I'm going to talk a little bit about health services, and then special education services, and then our preschool program. So one of the things that I think I am proudest about when I think about our work in Vashon School District is that there is nothing that is operating in isolation. All of our systems really are operating together. And so when our principals are talking about their buildings, they are talking about health services and special education and preschool, and because it's all integrated and it all happens together, and that's the way it should be working. And so it makes me so proud to be part of this district, and that's kind of the way it happens. Our health services folks are focused really closely right now on the attestation process. They're working with this Hvac team, and then they'll work with the other teams that are our ECAP and preschool teams kind of taught us how to do attestations and taught us about what kind of some of the challenges will be. We learned that we're going to need to do some really intentional parent training in order to have things run smoothly. And so we have a plan to have a week of practice for parents prior to the first day, so that they get a chance to kind of test drive the attestation tool, so that things run more smoothly. And I think Slade's right. We're going to see what's going on in other buildings, and although I anticipate all hands on deck in the first couple of weeks, I expect that to smooth out pretty quickly as well. Kudos absolutely to our tech department, who has invented this amazing tool for us to use. So that's and continue to tweak it, based upon our needs. So that's really very wonderful. Our health department team is also looking at really taking care of the staff and making sure that we are aligning our PPE with the needs of the staff. We're following the L&I guidelines to kind of as our starting place and how to define what kind of PPE staff need in each situation. And then we're taking a little bit of deeper dive to take a look at what are the unique situations that staff are in. And again, our preschool teams and our ECAP team and our students who've been coming in into small groups since the beginning of school have really helped inform what that needs to look like for Vashon School District. So that's going to continue. The other big thing that I want you to know that our health services team is working on is really monitoring the symptoms of folks as things are arising and coming up, because it's not just about when somebody is diagnosed with COVID and what do we do about that. It's also about the kid who walks in the door with sniffles, and what do we do about that? And how do we help parents understand what the rules from the health department and guidelines are about that? So it's very complex, and our nurses are figuring out the systems that we're going to need in order to make that work effectively. Any questions about health services? Okay. Our special ed teams have continued to bring the most vulnerable students into the buildings at all 3 schools, including our preschool team. Our preschool group now has, well, I'm going to start at the higher level. Our high school team has about 16 students that are coming, some more regularly than others. And they continue really to focus on helping students access their general ed learning and getting support on how to use the technology and how to focus on that. Our middle school students have about 8 students that are coming regularly, and both the high school and the middle school are doing some flexing as we move into the second semester, the third quarter, and changing things up based upon things that we've learned along the way and the needs of the kids. Our Chautauqua has about 13 students that are coming in. Most of those students, well, over half of those students are in our primary grade levels. And those kids in our primary grade levels really are those students for whom accessing their education electronically was just not happening at all for them. And so we've been really working on getting them in and figuring out how to give in-person services. Sometimes that means one-on-one, sometimes it means small group, sometimes it means longer times and shorter times. And those kids will all continue as we move into hybrid to get special ed services and general ed services in the building. I'm always proud of ECAP, so I want to tell you, but kind of what their next move is. They've had about half their students coming every week, and we for half the day. And when we pull the trigger and we move our students in Chautauqua into hybrid, our ECAP students are going to have all 20 students will be invited back at that time to come. Everybody will come 2 days a week, full days. So they will up their game a little bit. And I suspect that even if we decide to delay things at Chautauqua, ECAP's going to up its game a little bit anyway, because we really want to get those kids in, especially focusing on those 4-year-olds who will be kindergartners next year, wanting to make sure they're as ready as they can be. I think those are the highlights. Any questions?
No, but I just think that we need to have I just love the fact that it's the ECAP kids who are leading the way here. I just want to go upstairs and tell that to my senior upstairs. Like, do you know who's working their butts off right now? Those little cute little 4-year-olds.
Those little guys, and they
Yeah,
are
big-
just
big-
cuter than Bug's
Wiping their
ears.
snot like this, doing the whole thing.
Big shout out to Lily and Laura.
Yeah,
That's
rock on
Absolutely.
ECAP.
And Lily and Laura, who really are leaders as far as this, an attitude of, we're going to make this work, and the barriers that come up, they just figure out how to work around them.
Mhm.
So it's been a privilege to work with that
Zabet,
group.
I was telling, maybe I was telling the two of you, but I'll tell Reagan and Bob. Little Freya in ECAP showed me how to wash hands, and at the beginning of the day, and then she talked about her best friends, in the class, and it really ignited again, kind of that or sparked, as John likes to say, why we're here. So it was. I've been down there a couple of times visiting. Lily and Laura are like Catherine said, our leaders, but those little kids are such a hoot. So I would love to see more of them certainly return.
Yep.
Lisa, can you talk about food services? I know that's been talk about a pillar in our community, and your staff and your team and yourself. What changes do you see, and what updates do you have for us?
Yeah, thanks everybody. It's good to be talking about somewhat of a change. The changes that I foresee happening just in the new hybrid model. First and foremost, we will be busing our own to the different parts of the island. So starting, I think, in a week or so, actually, Brandon, they're going to be training next week. So I'm just going to get my staff to pull up another van, and so we'll be providing meals all over the island without the help of Brandon's wonderful team, just in preparation for that happening. So we're putting that into place next week. Then I think we heard from Rebecca that we'll have one more stop along the way for parents that are dropping off their students in the morning across the street at the church. That seemed like a really natural thing. Parents will bring their kids in, drop their kids off, leave, and then go pick up the meals that they'll have when the kids get home. So that seemed like another addition to the rest of, we're still going to continue with the 3 routes and all the stops along the way, but I think adding that one in would just make it easier for parents, that particularly the morning kids, because maybe they don't need to go to the bus stop at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning and get their meals, but it'll still be there. And we just mainly don't want kids to fall through the cracks, and I'm going to have staff at Chautauqua until we kind of see what the need is, and that I think is my biggest thing is we just have to start this and find out where the holes are. And I'm just, we anticipate and we plan and we talk, but until we actually do it, it's kind of hard to see what we've missed. So I'll have staff at Chautauqua just waiting to see and talking to John and Rebecca about, the where the need might be. And then a week before this all happens, whenever that might be, we'll send out an email blast to parents and let them know the changes and the new pickup place and just sort of the nuts and bolts of how it's going to work. And I'll just wait until whenever that is to talk to Rebecca and John. I think it was helpful if the principal sent out an email to parents, but then also I can send out I don't know if it helps to do K through 12, if it's just going to be Chautauqua. But anyway, communication and just letting them know of the change that's coming up. We'll sort of, as time wears on and more kids are coming back, we want to provide for the commuter kids too. So we'll work that out with how that will come into play. And otherwise, it's business as usual with a little twist. That's about all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Great. And I know it was a little bit of a side piece, and I'll yield the floor to questions, but we did want to share with the board this evening the kind of some of the financial data about expenditures and revenues around food services. And because we're in closure and still expected to serve food, some of the subsidies that we've been getting puts us into shortfalls, puts us into the red each month. And Lisa's done a wonderful job streamlining and trying to really look for efficiencies, and there's been staffing reductions. I know it's important to, I think, just to surface that every month there's a shortfall. So Lisa, I'll let you maybe speak more to that.
Yeah, we knowing that what we're doing is really important work and we wouldn't not do it. We've cut back staff to a bare minimum. We furloughed a couple of people who were willing, and that was great. We have support from Vashon Be Prepared. They've sort of provided us with some donations, and we have people donating and adults that are paying, and it's all helpful. But across the nation, every school district is in the same boat. We're doing it the best we can in a terrible situation, knowing that the kids need to eat. And we're all in the same boat. And I think historically, my program is flush. We just make it work. This is a anomaly. I hope that ends in June, and that we'll be able to go back in the fall and continue the good work that we do. And we're doing our best to just keep it as interesting and creative enough to feed our children with respect and just doing the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
What is the monthly shortfall? I realize it probably fluctuates a fair amount, but could you give me an order of magnitude?
1 second.
Where's Matt when you need him?
He's
Right
here.
here, it ranks around, it's about 12 to 18,000 a month in the hole.
Oh, you're awake. Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Matt.
I'm sorry, you said 12,000 a month?
12 to 18,000 a month.
That's not chicken scratch.
No, it's not.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for Lisa? And then we'll move to Kevin.
No, thank you, Lisa.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. And thanks for my banh mi sandwich today.
Yeah, send our thanks to your team as well. Kevin, I saw you in the Beachcomber this afternoon.
Awesome.
You look very small in the picture.
It was definitely a distant shot.
Right.
I had to do the set the timer and take the photo to provide it. Otherwise, I would have had to have my mask on, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great.
Can't wait to see myself. I just want to I want to start off by one saying sharing gratitude as well. Thank you for all that you do, everyone that's in on this call. You know, how about this? The pandemic is it's not easy. It's not an easy thing, and it definitely impacts and has hit everyone and hit everyone a little bit differently. Some more than others. And so I encourage you to stick with it. And that's to everyone that's listening. You know, stay Vashon strong. We can beat this and we can do this. And collectively, definitely we can make this happen. We, as a facilities group, obviously is partner with everyone in trying to bring the kids back. I'll start off with our grounds crew. And trying to maintain the sites and surrounds. I think we've done a excellent job with that, with our open campus model that we have with everybody coming to the campus to either stretch their legs or stretch their dog's legs. I'll put this disclaimer out there. Sorry, Bob, that the fields aren't available for soccer play, but hopefully they soon will be. So we will continue to put our best foot forward, no pun intended.
You mean legal soccer play?
Legal soccer
Right.
play, yes. You know, to keep the grounds accessible to everyone. We've, to Zabet, you asked a question, I believe it was last week in regards to our trails in the back. So we have been able to assess it. We haven't come up with a lot of widow makers. There are some hanging branches. What we've been seeing is a lot of trees actually falling, root bound, meaning that either they're weak or the roots are wet and the whole tree is coming down. So that is what we've been seeing on campus. We have had a couple trees come down that impact our neighbors. We have been very responsive in getting to those to resolve those issues as needed. But other than that, everything is really good. With the inclement weather, you'll find that the trail has been flooding, so to speak, but it almost feels like our rock is floating away anyhow. With the water table being as high as it is and nowhere for the water to disperse is a part of that impact. We're looking at how to mitigate that issue as well. We got in and cleaned out the drainage pipes. However, it provided a little bit relief, but it didn't provide what we thought it would. So we're still troubleshooting that aspect. Obviously, the stadium field is a blessing in disguise. It is holding up. The drainage is perfect. Everything is good with the new field. So we're blessed with that, just with the timing of everything going into place. I will switch to custodial now.
Can I stop you, Kevin? Just this is a stormwater guy question. How many gallons in a day, like pick a day? How many gallons an hour does that field generate, anyways?
I'm gonna. Sorry, Bob. You totally broke up. My internet connection is not stable. If you could try it again, please.
Just idle curiosity. Do you have a sense for the volume of water in an hour that field puts out? Any sense at all?
You know what? I can probably try to figure out those numbers for the actual field itself. I don't have it on the top of my head. No, sir.
Not worth it. Don't worry about it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions in regards to grounds before I move forward? Okay. Okay. With custodial and with our full department, we have tried to remain flexible as much as possible. Obviously, we're in a read and react situation. And this has been from the beginning. We're thinking we're moving left and then it banks right. We get poised to deal with it going right and then it straightens out. So we're actually hanging in there, doing a good job. You know, basically it is just remaining flexible. And then based on the staffing, they've all been flexible with coming in and trying to work and adjust schedules as needed. So kudos to them for hanging in there, you know, this whole time and trying to keep things moving and keep everyone safe. And in some regards, also trying to deal with some of the anxiety that comes along with being in our spaces. And so thank you to both of those groups. Any questions around custodial services?
Bob, the answer to your question is 36,000 gallons on a football field for 1 inch of rain.
Could you convert that to liters?
All right,
please?
Toby.
I can, give me a second.
Can you answer in the form of a question, please? Kevin, I did just one question. I'm curious, between the AM and the PM groups of kids coming into the elementary school, is there going to be anything particularly different we're going to do to try to sanitize between AM and PM, or is that not feasible and the teachers will be doing that? Or can you just let us know how that's going to work?
Absolutely. So it'd be a combination of everything. What I plan to do is to adjust the schedules of our evening crew, our swing shift, and have them start their day earlier so that we can accommodate that transition. So if we have an hour's turnaround time, I know that I don't have, with the one custodian in the building during the day, it's not enough hands to turn everything over, particularly the restrooms in that amount of time. It roughly takes about 15 minutes per restroom to get it cleaned and sanitized, and then you throw on top of it any extra that's going to be asked of us to do inside the classroom. So we will again try to tackle it as best we possibly can. So for instance, for Chautauqua, that would be 3 FTE at that noon hour to turn over the space for the second group coming in.
And how much like hands-on is it in terms of like actually having to address services, or are we talking about spraying a lot of Lysol around and not having to do a wipe down, or kind of what does it look like, just so we get an idea of how much they're trying to tackle in a short amount of time?
Yeah, so we are continuing to do high touch services. That has been the focus from day one. Try to hit high touch services as much as possible. We are not using outside chemicals. We currently use a peroxide based cleaner, and we also have a peroxide based disinfectant as well that we use that has been endorsed and from a third party. We've been given the green light from from the PSESD as far as the product that we use. And then we are also mandated differently. We can't use bleach and those type of things for the safety of it. So different than, I'll put this out there, different than our preschool based on what they may have to encounter, such as diapers and stuff like that. So they have the ability to use bleach and stuff like that. We don't. And what we know is that if the virus breaks down fairly easy on surfaces with the friction of wiping down, we're confident that what we do will be adequate enough to bring everyone back as needed. I hope that answered your question.
Great. Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then,
Kevin, sorry, can I jump in with a question?
Sure.
That you just to sort of hear you say it again. I know you were just saying about how your staff is dealing with their own safety issues and their anxieties. How is that going? Are they feeling safe in the buildings? Are they okay there?
Yes, yes. Everyone seems to be handling it very well. We do have some high risk folks as well. But as of right now, they're pretty okay with it. When I speak of anxiety, that is for everyone that enters the building, trying to I would tell you that my lens is trying to take care of everyone. It's not just my staff. It is all the students that come in. It is all the teachers. It is everyone. So if I have this disclaimer out there, if I seem a little bit animated in regards to this, is because I don't take it lightly. This is serious business to me. And so Slade alluded to, if one case is the benchmark, I'm struggling with that one. I would hope that it's zero. And so that's my goal. That is our goal, to try to keep everyone as safe as possible. So, and that I recognize that there's a lot of anxiety, and how do we manage that? How do we deal with that? And so, yeah, it's an interesting dance we're doing right now.
Yes, it is. It's a tiring dance we're doing right now.
And as far as the facilities go, I heard a question earlier. This has allowed us an opportunity to actually comb through our systems to try to figure out where things are. We have been contracting with outside companies to try to help us get there. And I will say kudos to tech as well. We use the Attestation Tool to the best of our ability. We try to make sure all of our outside contractors have been properly vetted in regards to answering the attestation questions and walking them through that. I personally do it unless it's an emergency call and I'm not privy to when they'll show up. So hopefully my team is handling that one carefully. There was a question about HVAC earlier for CES, and I just want to clarify that it will be open. The 100% that is referenced is 100% as much as we possibly can. To say that it will be open 100% would be inaccurate, in the sense that if we do that, due to the season that we're in, it will trip freeze protection, which will send our systems in haywire. So with that said, I feel very, very confident that our systems are adequate enough to handle all of this. And so we've done some, we've upped our timing on how often we look at the filters. Again, we're having our boilers tested and analyzed to seeing where there's any loopholes that we might be missing, or any issues that trying to prevent the unexpected failures during this time, which would be definitely not welcomed. So that's been our focus. Other than that, we are trying to keep the lights on and keeping things moving, trying to remain flexible to work with all of our groups. We're right now the focus is Chautauqua. Throwing hands at trying to set things up there to make sure this is a smooth transition, and knowing that it's trial thing. We're flexible. We're there to serve, to provide the service.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions for Kevin right now? Yeah, no, I'm in awe, basically. So, gosh, big kudos to you, and we're lucky to have you on board to support our staff, our students. So, Brandon, we had you speak a little earlier about transportation. Is there any other thing that you want to share with our board, and then we'll kind of end this evening with John and any other questions from our, kind of from our board, or any of the discussion they would like to have. But let's have Brandon and then John go, and then thanks for coming back.
No, again, like I said, we're going to conduct our training next week, have the drivers ready to go for if and when after February 1st, you decide to go ahead and go. After today's meeting with Rebecca, I feel a lot more confident than I did before today. So I really do think that it's going to be a lot smoother transition than we originally thought. And again, we're ready to go. So
Brandon, can I ask Zabet's question about your staff, about your drivers? How are they feeling?
Yeah, thank you. I was just about to ask you the exact same thing.
So everyone's ready to come back. I do get the questions about the vaccine. I do have a couple of the drivers who were able to schedule vaccines already. We are still pushing for other drivers who have not received a scheduled date yet to continue to push for that. I have also been working side by side with Sarah, who is working to try and get vaccines, and we have been invited as well for anyone who's not, if and when that does happen. So there are concerns as far as vaccines, but none that has been a showstopper to this point.
And so I'm assuming that when you're speaking about drivers who are eligible, who are falling into that 65 or over category?
Correct, and that's a large majority of the drivers.
Right. Yeah, thanks.
No problem.
Any other questions for Brandon right now? All right, well, thank you too, Brandon, for being on the ready and for all the planning that you're doing in advance. So it's, again, that's not an easy feat either. John Stanton, how are you doing tonight? Brought to you by the letter J.
That's very well. I'm doing pretty well, thanks. And I'll try to keep this brief. But I guess what I'd say about this year so far is it's been a mix of endurance and agility. So there's a lot of things that are sort of day after day things, and some things we have to turn on a dime. And I'm lucky to have a great team working with me, Thane Gill and Jerry Muller and Lauren Gallegos. They're batting 1,000. They're knocking out of the park every day. And I feel so thankful to have them working with me. And also say, just because other folks have been kind enough to mention that we value our partnerships with the other departments, and especially facilities and student services and the administrators at the district and building level. It's a team effort, and we get a lot of support, and we try to give a lot of support. I want to talk just very briefly about this attestation tool that you've heard so much about. It was developed by Thane Gill, who's our network administrator and also our application developer. And this year it has become really clear that having an application developer on your staff is an amazing boon for a district, and a district our size doesn't usually get to have that. So it's really hard to say too many good things about Thane's work ethic and his brilliance and the tool. He's been able to make changes day by day as people request features. We're able to bring them online is pretty rapidly. And so it's been a good thing, I think. And we've been doing a lot of meeting with Catherine and the nurses and our building administrators, Rebecca and John, and had a lot of support from office staff. Jillian Callison has been really instrumental in helping us to think about how this workflow is going to happen when we have students coming off buses and getting into lines to do attestation. I'm going to see if I can, I want to say just a few more things. That the attestation tool is a couple aspects. One is it's meant to be used by parents at home. So parents can attest ahead of time for their students. And so the students that will be attesting on site will be maybe those students who didn't do it at home, or will be being checked by staff as they come in. So we'll have staff out in the parking lots with scanners, and they will scan a barcode that the student will present, and we will know instantly whether that student has attested for the day. And if not, then the folks will work with parents to make sure that that happens. To make that happen, at the very beginning of the year, we created scannable cards for every single student in our district, and we distributed them along with lanyards and waterproof plastic protectors, so that when this moment came, that we'd be ready to sort of proceed with that. And so we hope that most of our students will come with those as they come back to school. We'll also have a full set of replacements available for any student who didn't manage to come or remember theirs. So I think we feel like we've been preparing for this moment for a long time. I'll say just a little bit about the other services that we're continuing to provide. So early this year, school year, we started to provide a dedicated family help desk system, and we continue to do that. And it's web-based, and any family member or parent who needs to use it gets expedited service so that we make sure we take care of their issues just as fast as we can. We also have a same-day Chromebook replacement service through the VHS hub, and families who have something wrong with their Chromebook, or maybe a break or something like that, are able to get a new device on the very same day. And that's been a real success as well. We've been working with our building liaisons to reach out to our Latinx families, and we've been able to connect a variety of families with vouchers for home internet service through a couple different providers. And we've also distributed more than 40 hotspots to students and families. And so we're feeling pretty good about our ability to connect students when they need to be connected. We still have some capacity to do that if the need arises. We've also been doing sort of proactively quality survey of students' connections. So we go and we look at the kind of quality of the Google Meets that they're having. And if we can identify students who are having consistently poor connections, then we reach out to the building levels to have them work with the families to see if we need to provide some sort of connectivity for them. So there's a little bit of interrogation of the data on our part to see if we can find places that could stand some improvement. We've also provided hotspots to staff members sort of for both short and long-term health issues, things that would keep staff members out of the building or might require them to have mobility while seeking medical attention, things like that. We've been able to provide that. And so that's been a real boon to us as well. We're going to use some of those hotspots probably when we start to do the arrival with the buses at Chautauqua. And that's one of the things that we're working through with our team right now. We've also, behind the scenes, been working to upgrade our district connection. So we'll soon double our internet connectivity speed within the district. That's anticipation of possibly a hybrid environment in our 6 through 12 group. And so we think we'll be ready to serve those students when they come on board. We've also connected every single staff member with a VPN into the district, and we're able to provide immediate desktop support for those folks even when they're at home, and push updates to them, and also to allow them to make phone calls to families using their school telephone numbers from their computers. So that's been a powerful asset for folks that needed to communicate with families. On the software front, we've been adding some additional tools that we hope will make teachers' lives easier. And we've done that by surveying teachers and taking feedback about tools that are have been especially useful. So really our teachers have been on the vanguard of finding stuff that is especially powerful. And then we're trying to respond in some sort of measured fashion to supply those tools. So recently we supplied Pear Deck to the district and another tool called Edpuzzle at McMurray Middle School. And so we're hoping that that's gonna make the sort of remote teaching experience even better for kids and teachers. We've also upgraded our Google infrastructure to their enterprise level support. And that's allowed us to add extra features like breakout rooms and polling and a bunch of other things that are useful to teachers' attendance, things like that. We've also bought some support hours with a company that specializes in Google infrastructure training and support so that we're ready to respond to issues that arise. We've also used their help to create some tools that will make it much easier for building level staff, such as office folks, to add and remove substitute teachers on the fly from a Google Classroom. So imagine that a teacher's out and you have to bring in a substitute for 2 days. Then we're going to make it so that Lance can quickly and easily integrate that substitute into the Google Classroom experience and then remove them when it's appropriate. In terms of the Chromebooks, we're feeling pretty good about our distribution of Chromebooks. As you guys know, grades 6 to 12 have all received a Chromebook. More than 250 Chautauqua students have also received a Chromebook from us. We have purchased a protective neoprene Chromebook sleeve for every student in the district. And as those students start to return, we'll give all of those students a sleeve to protect their Chromebook. And hopefully, as the kids come back and forth and have the Chromebooks in their backpack, that we will see less damage than we otherwise might. So fingers crossed on that one. Yeah, right. And we're also just sort of trying to be ready to be flexible about whatever comes in the next month or so. We know it's going to be a lot of improvisation and a lot of hard work, and it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a team effort to make it happen, and we're ready to do our part for sure. Any questions?
Yeah. First of all, thank you. Your department and what you've been able to achieve in this period of time has been phenomenal. It's a real testimony to what the district's capable of doing across departments and working together. It's really been, it's actually holding the whole experience together for all the families and staff. So really well done. Two quick questions. I love that we have the help desk for families. Is that used very often?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the devices, how are they holding up based on your expectation?
Yeah, I would say actually better than I expected. And so the only sort of hiccup that we had at the sort of very front end of the year was that there was a bug with a particular model of Chromebook that we had that made it not perform well with Google Meets. And so there was sort of this frantic exchange that went on during the first 2 weeks of school, which was not fun. But after we got over that hump and Google sort of patched that version of Chrome OS in the next iteration, that problem kind of went away. So I would say I'd call this a success story.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. Other questions from the board?
No, I think I'm just looking at my notes. So what Toby was saying, it's amazing what you guys have done. But then I think like, it's amazing what Kevin's team is doing. And it's amazing what like Sarah and Elizabeth are doing with the nurses. And it's amazing what Lisa's doing with like, we have these like tight teams that are, man, you guys are efficient. Wow. So thank you. No, that's, I actually, I wonder, what do you think the attestation, it feels like something we should keep doing after the pandemic. I mean, think of all the snot we would keep out of the school. I know I say that now because we haven't started it yet, and I don't really realize the nightmare that's coming straight at us. So Slade, I'm reading your facial expressions to say no, but wouldn't that be kind of interesting to be like, you seem to be lying about that you feel well. Maybe you shouldn't be at school.
Right. I love the ideas. I love the out of the box thinking.
Oh, thanks.
And just now when they stay home sick, we can just make sure they have a Chromebook and they can participate.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we'll be looking at. Absolutely. So
you never know.
Any other kind of last discussion points or that the board would like to kind of, or questions for anybody in our group? I completely underestimated my time. We're 45 minutes over. I had thought maybe 30 minutes over, but I think this has been really important. And, for me, it feels that the return to in-person learning is going to be the most successful and have the best chance at being sustainable if we're all prepared and working together. And that's really what I've been hearing is like intense levels of preparation and with this heavy emphasis around working together. So, but would other board members like to close up the meeting with other thoughts or questions, and then we'll say goodnight to each other.
I just have a quick thought or comment, which is this is really valuable because it empowers us to communicate a consistent message with the rest of the community and really deeply understand the process, understand the challenges, and understand how we can support it to move forward. my personal feelings. I don't want to get in the weeds and try to, influence those micro decisions that happen at the buildings or the departments, but I really need to be able to answer questions in a smart and accurate way to families in the produce section at Thriftway. And so that's the lens I came to this meeting. I really appreciate the time and what I got out of this. So, thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo just gratitude for all of you and the work that you and your teams are doing, and what we've been able to accomplish in our district during this crisis is really phenomenal. And I think as bad as it has been, we're definitely rising to the top of compared to other places in their struggles. So kudos to all of you for that. And I think we're doing likewise a good job of communicating the plan to the community. We've had some more time to get used to this whole thing as the year has gone on, so we're not quite in the same place we were at the start of the year when we were trying to figure out how to do this at all and whether it was possible and what it would look like. And I think we took the lessons from the start of the year into the second half of the year here, and I think we've been able to keep the community very well. And I don't think there's too many parents or people affiliated with the school who can claim not to have some understanding of the plan for hybrid learning. So I think that's going to be very helpful to avoid any PR glitches going into the second round. And I'm confident, as I was in the fall, that if anybody can pull off a good hybrid learning that is substantial and effective for our students, it's this group. So and everything I've heard tonight only supports my belief in that. So thanks again, and here we go again. Hopefully, if the virus cooperates.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming. And as we all know, this is a work in progress. And who knows if we've learned anything. If we've learned anything from this virus, it's that we don't know what's coming next. But I feel like we're as prepared for this moment as we can be. So thank you everyone for staying late. Really appreciate it. And no, because this is a workshop, Toby.
It's symbolic.
Otherwise.
All right. Well,
Okay.
Thank you again too. Thanks, board members. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.